Incredible twist. Former F1 champion surprises millionaire with a heartwarming junk car challenge. In the heart of Elmwood, a dust-kicked town where dreams felt tight in their pockets, the air buzzed with an unexpected excitement. Jack Thompson, a 24-year-old mechanic with hands perpetually stained from grease, stood shoulder to shoulder with his neighbors, a crowd woven together by shared hopes and thirst for change. That evening, the annual charity fundraiser promised to help revitalize their quiet town. But what would unfold was anything but ordinary. Amidst the sweet scent of apple pie and barbecue smoke, laughter erupted. Kevin Blake, the golden boy of Formula One racing, walked in like a blast of heat, radiating confidence. The town was abuzz, and Jack felt a jolt of disbelief. The man everyone deemed a millionaire was here, in their humble midst. Jack, with his worn jeans and a t-shirt that had seen better days, felt a pang of longing in his chest. He dreamed of more than fixing engines. He yearned to elevate his family, to build a future for his single mother and younger sister who depended on him. Yet, every day in Thompson's auto was a reminder of the American dream he'd chased, one that felt as distant as the stars. As the event unfolded, a playful banter floated around, focused on the glimmer of luxury cars and what they symbolized. Laughter erupted when Kevin, in a moment of spontaneity, suggested a challenge: a junk car rebuild against the local boy. The townsfolk exchanged glances, skepticism mixed with amusement. "Jack's just a mechanic. What can he do against a former champ?" whispered an onlooker, but Jack's heart raced. He felt a flicker of determination igniting within him. "Let us do it," Jack shouted, surprising even himself. The town erupted in enthusiasm. His mother, brushing a tender hand over her brow, wore worry in her eyes. "Jack, don't get ahead of yourself," she murmured, her voice laced with concern. But his little sister smiled wide, hope sparking in her gaze. "You can do it, Jack." In the weeks that followed, they stripped down a rusted hulk. Jack and Kevin, one a local dreamer, the other a racing legend, worked side by side. With each twist of a wrench and laugh shared, they unearthed not just the car's potential but their own tangled dreams. Kevin grappled with the weight of past glories, while Jack poured his heart into proving himself. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As the deadline approached, whispers of Kevin's family ties to Elmwood surfaced, weaving a deeper connection between them and igniting Jack's doubts. Would pursuing greatness mean risking everything he held dear? Just as the tension peaked, Jack discovered that the welding sparks could ignite more than just steel. They ignited a bond of brotherhood between dreamers separated by worlds yet tied by a common love for family and community. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, the engines roared to life, and the town held its breath. What would Jack choose? The thrill of the race ahead or the comfort of home behind? One question lingered in the air, electrifying the atmosphere. Would he chase the dream, or protect the heart of the family he loved? The clock ticked down the days like a relentless drumbeat, each tick a heartbeat echoing Jack's growing anxiety. As Kevin worked tirelessly, pouring his racing insights into their project, Jack felt pulsing doubts creeping into his mind. He often caught himself staring at the rusted car body, wondering if it was worth the risk. His family's comforts, the late-night movies, the sound of his mother's laughter, and even the bickering with his sister over who got to eat the last slice of pie flashed like neon signs, reminding him of what mattered most. The night before the big unveiling, Jack sat on the hood of the car, the cool metal against his back a comforting presence. Kevin, busy in the garage, glanced over, sensing the heaviness in the air. "Jack? Everything all right?" Jack nodded, but Kevin could see through the facade. "You're feeling the heat, aren't you?" he asked, wiping grease from his hands. "There's more than just the car at stake here." "Yeah," Jack replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "I want to win. Not just for me but for my family. If I lose, what will it look like? What will it mean?" Kevin crossed his arms, his gaze steady. "Look, I get it. But winning isn't everything. You've already built something. We've built something. This is about more than just the race, it's about finding yourself in all this. Jack's throat tightened. Could it really be about more than victory? Could the process hold more value than the outcome? They had poured their hearts into this rusty heap, and suddenly it felt like they had forged something deeper than metal and bolts. There, under the dim light of the garage, camaraderie grew. The day of unveiling came too quickly. The entire town gathered, anticipation crackling in the air. Someone even brought a giant banner that read Jack and Kevin, reviving dreams on wheels. It made Jack chuckle, but his insides churned with pressure. What if the crowd saw them fail? As they pulled the tarp off the car, gasps rippled through the crowd. The previously dilapidated vehicle had transformed into a vision of promise, glimmering paint, smooth lines, and a heart that pulsed with potential. The cheers overwhelmed him, igniting a spark of hope. Kevin leaned in, whispering, "Whatever happens, just remember who you did this for." Jack nodded, a surge of determination rushing through him. With the sun blazing high, they took their positions, engines revving, adrenaline pumping through their veins. The starting line felt electric, as though the very ground they stood on vibrated with the weight of their dreams. On your marks, get set. The countdown began. Jack's heart raced. He felt the weight not just of the car beneath him, but of every eye in town looking up at him. He could see his mother's anxious smile, his sister, a bundle of unfiltered hope, and Kevin's steady gaze, encouraging him from the next lane. Go! The roar of engines was deafening, drowning out their worries as they surged forward. The taste of freedom filled Jack's lungs, and he remembered Kevin's words. This was a moment not just of competition, but a chance to lay it all on the line. But halfway through the lap, a fateful shift occurred. Jack felt something off in the car, a jolt in the engine's rhythm. He glanced in the rearview mirror, only to see Kevin's car drawing dangerously close. As the finish line approached, Jack had to decide: push through the discomfort for the win or ease off for what mattered more. What would Jack choose now that the race had taken a dramatic turn, threatening everything he wanted to prove? Jack's grip tightened around the steering wheel, the vibrations dancing through his hands and up his arms. Every pulse of the engine felt like a warning, a call to choose. He could see Kevin behind him, inching closer, their friendship igniting a whirlwind of emotions within him. He had to think. He remembered how excited they were when they first found the car, its shell just a relic of rust and forgotten dreams. Did it really matter who crossed the finish line first? Could he sacrifice their bond just for a trophy? As his heart raced in tandem with the engine, Jack spotted the finish line up ahead, the crowd's cheers exploding around him. His mother was waving, her smile piercing through the noise, a beacon of love and reassurance. But behind her, the faces of Kevin's family flashed in his mind, too, a reminder of the support they both relied on. Jack's heart sank as the engine sputtered again. The thought of potentially failing the very thing that brought them all together tightened like a vice around his chest. Should he trust his instincts and ease off, or push through what felt like a gathering storm? Suddenly, Jack remembered a moment from the garage, those late nights spent tinkering with parts, laughter mixed with grime, the culinary disasters they attempted while working tirelessly on the car. It wasn't just a vehicle. It was proof of their resilience. In one fluid motion, he eased off the accelerator. He could feel the shift. The vibrations weren't as harsh anymore. With a quick glance, he saw Kevin's headlights shining bright but starting to slow down too. The choice had been made. Even as he fell back, something odd sparked in Jack's heart. It was freedom. The joy of being unshackled from expectations washed over him. As Kevin zoomed past, Jack found a grin spreading across his face. This wasn't a loss. It was a celebration of everything they had created together. The spirit of competition had never been about defeating one another. It was about unity, and the thrill of the journey itself. The finish line blurred in their view as Kevin crossed it first, the crowd erupting into cheers. Jack let the car coast to a halt, still grinning despite the outcome. The relief of his decision coursed through him, and he couldn't wait to hear what Kevin would say. As the crowd rushed towards Kevin, Jack caught sight of his mother. She was beaming, her pride radiating through the chaos. He turned his gaze back to the track, only to find Kevin approaching, disbelief etched across his face. "Did you just let me win?" he asked, half amused, half incredulous. "It's not about winning, man," Jack replied, his heart swelling. It's what we built together. That's the real win. Kevin's expression shifted, understanding lighting up his features. Yeah, you're right. This was bigger than a race. Before they knew it, the townspeople surrounded them, clapping their hands, sharing moments of joy and togetherness. It felt electric, like a spark igniting a whole celebration, transcending their individual dreams. But amidst the cheers and laughter, Jack couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty creeping back in. What would this choice mean for their futures? And how far would their friendship go without the thrill of competition to bond them? Just as those thoughts began to swirl in his mind, a familiar voice cut through the moment. All right, Jack. Let us see if you can turn that decision into a second chance. It was old Mr. Hawthorne, leaning against his vintage truck with a glimmer of mischief in his eyes. I might know a thing or two about redemption in racing. Jack's pulse quickened anew as curiosity took hold. What could that possibly mean for him and Kevin now? Jack stepped forward, curiosity bubbling in his chest. Mr. Hawthorne had a way of making the ordinary feel like something out of a storybook. The old man's weathered face was framed by his white beard, and his eyes twinkled like the headlights of a prized car. What do you mean by redemption? Jack asked, eyebrows raised. Kevin joined him, his smile fading into a look of intrigue. Follow me, Mr. Hawthorne said, beckoning them to walk to the side of the track. He led them past the cheering crowd, the blissful noise fading into the background, replaced by the sound of gravel crunching under their feet. Once they reached the shade of an old oak tree, Mr. Hawthorne began to explain. You boys are talented. I see the drive in you, but talent means nothing if you don't know how to harness it. He paused, letting his words sink in. I want to challenge you. What kind of challenge? Kevin asked, skepticism creeping into his tone. Next weekend, their essay race at the old quarry. You two are going to race against some of the best young drivers in town. But here's the catch, you'll be using your old junkers. He chuckled as he glanced at their incredulous faces. That means the very car you've poured your heart into, and a few others we can gather, will be all you've got. Jack's heart raced. A junk car challenge? It sounded ridiculous, but a flicker of excitement sparked within him. Why would we want to race old rust buckets? He asked, his voice betraying unease. Because it's not just about speed. It's about creativity and teamwork, Mr. Hawthorne replied, leaning closer. I want you to take what you've learned and put it to the test. It's about making something beautiful out of something broken. Kevin looked at Jack, a hesitant grin creeping onto his face. That could be fun, right? As Jack hesitated, the weight of the day settled heavily on his shoulders. What if they failed in front of everyone again? But then he recalled their journey, the long nights, the laughter, the process of turning a rusting shell into something alive. All right, I'm in, Jack finally said, the words spilling out with newfound determination. Kevin's face lit up. I'd love to do this. It'll be a blast. Mr. Hawthorne smiled, his enthusiasm contagious. Great. You'll have a week. Use it. Gather a team and let us show them what you've really got. As they turned to leave, Jack felt a fresh wave of hope wash over him. This could be what he needed to solidify their bond, turning their friendship into something stronger, built on the foundations of trust and teamwork. But just before they stepped back into the noise of the crowd, Mr. Hawthorne placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. Remember, it's not just about the win. It's about who you become along the way. Dig deep. I believe in you, kid. The old man's words echoed in Jack's ears as they rejoined the celebration. He saw Kevin laughing with friends, already brainstorming ideas, his excitement palpable. Jack felt the spark of determination fuse within himself. As the celebrations continued around them, Jack's thoughts drifted to the upcoming challenge. He couldn't shake the feeling that old Mr. Hawthorne was right, it wouldn't just be about the race. But in the midst of the excitement, nagging doubts crept back into Jack's mind. Could they really pull it off? Would this challenge truly be a chance for the two of them to grow? Or would it put even more strain on their friendship? The cacophony of the crowd faded again as he looked at Kevin, who had turned back, gesturing enthusiastically about their next steps. Jack smiled, but as he watched his friend, one thought lingered: what if the true test lay beyond the race itself? Just then Jack spotted someone familiar in the crowd, and his heart sank. It was Claire, the girl from school who always seemed to know exactly when to show up at the worst moments. Would she come to watch the race this time, or would she become another source of challenge? "Hey Jack," Kevin called, breaking into Jack's thoughts. "You ready for this?" With determination in his eyes, Jack nodded. "Yeah, let's do this." But deep down, questions swirled. As excitement mixed with uncertainty, Jack wondered just how far he and Kevin were willing to go to face their fears together. And what secrets from the past would come to light as they prepared for the challenge ahead. The weeks sped by faster than Jack could have imagined. Between the excitement of the upcoming race and the chaotic school days, he barely had time to catch his breath. They didn't just have one goal, they had a mission. Every evening after school, Jack and Kevin gathered in Kevin's garage. They surrounded themselves with the metal carcasses of childhood dreams, faded paint, bent hoods, and worn-out tires. Their mission? To breathe life back into these junkers. "Look at this beauty, Jack." Kevin grinned as he pointed at a rusted old sedan they had decided to turn into their race car. "If we can make this run, we can make anything run." Jack knelt down beside it, his hands tracing the cold metal. It was a relic for sure. But beneath the rust he could see potential. Together they worked late into the night, pulling off doors, replacing gaskets, and tinkering with whatever they could salvage. The air was thick with the smell of oil and rust, yet each clank of the tools was almost like music, a steady rhythm of hope and creation. Amidst the grinding of gears and laughter, Jack couldn't shake the feeling of Clara's eyes heavy on him. She seemed to float through his thoughts more than he expected. What would she think when she saw him racing? Would she remember the kid who once stood at the back of the class, too afraid to raise his hand? Kevin, catching Jack's distant expression, nudged him. "Hey, what's up? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just Claire," Jack mumbled, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Kevin laughed. "You're seriously worried about her? Just focus on the race. If it helps, I think she might actually come out to see the madness." Jack's chest tightened at the thought. Racing was one thing, but doing it in front of Claire? That felt like a whole other level of pressure. As the sun set on the night before the race, Jack decided to take a step back. He leaned against the garage wall, arms crossed, watching Kevin excitedly sketch out plans for modifications on a piece of scrap paper. "Hey Kevin," Jack said, his voice softening. "What if we don't win? What if everyone laughs at us? Then we just show up next time with an even crazier car." Kevin replied, waving his arms like an excited kid. "This is about having fun and proving we can create something from nothing. It's about us, not the trophy." Underneath the stress, a warm wave of gratitude flowed through Jack. They were a team, the two of them against the world, no matter how crazy. Morning dawned with a mix of sunshine and nerves. Jack's stomach fluttered with anticipation. The race loomed closer, and the crowd would be larger than anything they'd ever faced. With Kevin by his side, he felt ready to step into it together. As they drove to the quarry, an uneasy silence settled. The weight of expectations filled the air in the car, thick enough to cut with a knife. Jack glanced at Kevin, who was tuned into the radio, lost in the melodic flow of whatever song was playing. Jack found himself smiling. He knew this was going to be an adventure they wouldn't soon forget. Arriving at the quarry was a spectacle. The sun lit up the dust flying from the excited crowd. Jack's heart raced as he spotted Claire among the spectators, her face a mix of curiosity and encouragement. "All right, time to show what we've got," Kevin shouted, slapping a reassuring hand on Jack's shoulder as the adrenaline surged. They hopped out of the car, adrenaline pumping. However, as they approached the starting line, Jack spotted a rival team, smug, clean-cut racers with glimmering machines. The contrast made their junker seem even less impressive. "Hey, did you guys bring a car or a dumpster?" One of them jeered, laughter erupting from the group. That taunt filled Jack with doubt. His palms began to sweat, his smile fading. But before he could allow despair to settle in, Kevin leaned in, whispering, "Remember, our journey is about them. It's about us." As they climbed into the driver's seat, the stakes pressed down on Jack like a weight. Could they really prove something to the world? Or would they stumble and fall under the glaring spotlight? "Brace yourself," Jack muttered, gripping the wheel, their laughter fused with tension. But just then a thought jolted through him. What if the race would reveal more than just their skills? What if it could paint a clearer picture of who they were meant to become, and more importantly, of how they would rise after the fall? And before he could question it further, the signal for the race was given, thrusting them into a whirlwind of speed and self-discovery. Little did Jack know, the day would bring more than a simple race. It would challenge everything he thought he knew about winning and losing and about himself. As the engines roared to life and the thrill of competition surged, Jack felt one more wave of uncertainty wash over him. What would it take to prove to everyone and himself that he could transform his fears into strength? The answer awaited just beyond the starting line. The roar of the engines vibrated through Jack, charging him with an electrifying mix of fear and excitement. He felt the pressure swell within him, each beat of his heart syncing with the thundering pulse of the race. Kevin, sitting beside him, was fully in the zone, focused on the track ahead. Jack let out a shaky breath, trying to quiet the swirling doubts in his mind as the countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The starting signal blasted, and instinct kicked in. Jack slammed his foot down on the accelerator. The old sedan lurched forward, the roar of the engine filling his ears. Turbulent adrenaline flooded his veins. For a moment he felt unbeatable. But in the blink of an eye, the polished rivals surged ahead. Their cars glinted under the sun, cutting through the dust like knives. Jack's stomach tightened at the sight. Were they really going to keep up? He glanced at Kevin, who was already leaning aggressively into the turns, shouting encouragement over the noise. "Let us get this baby to move," Kevin yelled, pumping his fist in the air. Jack gritted his teeth and focused, steeling himself. He navigated through the initial turns, the junker swaying uncertainly beneath him. The crowd's cheers blended into a cacophony that echoed in his chest. Claire's face flashed back in his mind. He could almost feel her rooting for them, and that ignited something stark and undeniable inside him. Adrenaline pushed back against every insecurity. Jack held onto the wheel tighter, digging deeper into their car's true potential. "Take that curve harder," Kevin shouted, and Jack complied, leaning into it. The world around them became a blur. Colors swirled and blended as they raced on into the wild mix of exhilaration and fear. They passed one car, then another. Each time the cheers from the crowd rose higher, surrounding them like a warm embrace. With every turn, Jack discovered new confidence. Just as they entered the final lap, a glimmer of hope surged within him. They might actually have a chance. "Look, we can catch them," Kevin pointed, his eyes wide with excitement. Jack nodded, his focus sharpened. He felt time stretch around them, each motion deliberate. With determination, he swerved their car to gain momentum, inching closer to the rival team. Panic and exhilaration battled within him. This was their moment. But suddenly misfortune struck. A tire squealed, and they skidded on a patch of loose gravel. Jack held his breath as the car careened toward the edge. "Steady. Don't overcorrect," Kevin shouted, panic creeping into his voice. With every ounce of control he could muster, Jack fought to stabilize the car. Heart racing, he gripped the wheel with a white-knuckled certainty. At the last second, he swayed back, correcting their path. Miraculously, they skidded back onto the track, but not without losing precious seconds. They had fallen behind. As he glanced at the lead cars pulling away, disappointment swelled in Jack's chest. They had worked so hard, but here they were sputtering at the back. "Jack, focus," Kevin urged, sensing his despair. "We can still do this. Remember why we're here." Jack took a deep breath, letting the moment sink in. This wasn't just about racing. It was about proving to themselves that they could rise against whatever odds faced them. With that realization, he felt the spark ignite again. He pushed the accelerator harder, calling on the car's hidden power. They were together in this. As they entered the final stretch, the crowd roared, urging them on. The finish line loomed in the distance, just a blur through his tunnel vision. Jack darkly embraced the pressure, pushing aside anything that couldn't help them win this race. Suddenly, the lead car lost its steering, spinning wildly off course. Jack's heart raced. They were back in it. Jack expertly maneuvered around the out-of-control vehicle, charging ahead with renewed purpose, eyes locked solidly on the finish line. But then, as fate would have it, a familiar face emerged from the stands, the last person he expected to see. Claire's eyes held both disbelief and admiration. Jack locked eyes with her just as the competitors closed in. "Go," she shouted, and in that one word, Jack felt his entire world shift. Fueled by determination, Jack glanced back at Kevin, who was already grinning with hopeful anticipation. "Let us do it," Kevin screamed, and Jack couldn't help but smile as they accelerated. As they careened toward the finish line with adrenaline coursing through their veins, Jack learned that sometimes, the biggest victories come not from the strongest machines but from the courage to rise when faced with challenges. What would the outcome be? Would they finish strong? Or was this just another race in a series of life lessons? The tension hung thick as they crossed into the unknown, the engines roaring beneath them, each second stretching toward destiny. Was winning truly about the glory, or was it something far deeper? Only the finish line could reveal their truth. The finish line crept closer, the roar of engines blending with the wild cheers of the crowd. Time seemed to slow as Jack locked onto the approaching finish, a rush of hope flooding through him. "Push it!" Kevin shouted. Jack felt the surge of motivation wash over him, a wave of adrenaline crashing into every nerve. His foot pressed harder against the accelerator, and their sedan seemed to respond, almost as if it had a heartbeat of its own. As they crossed into the final stretch, something shifted around them. The world faded to a mere blur of noise and color, with only Jack and Kevin existing within their vibrant bubble of speed and determination. Every inch felt monumental. Jack's heart was a thunderous drum in his chest, syncing with the car's roar. He dared to glance over at the rival cars, each one a polished testament to wealth and status, their engines screaming against the backdrop of the crowd's enthusiasm. But in that moment, none of that mattered. It was just them, their hopes, their dreams, and the old sedan that now felt like a rocket. Then it happened. A flash of silver darted past as an opposing car accelerated unapologetically, barely a foot away from them. Jack's instincts kicked in. Without thinking, he swerved to the left, trying to block them off. A moment of reckless courage bubbled up as they were pushed into an almost perfect slipstream. It took all he had to keep control. "Watch out!" Kevin yelled, the tension palpable. The silver car swerved back, desperately trying to re-establish its lead. Jack's heart sank as he saw his opening close. Then, with a gut-wrenching jolt that lit the air with anticipation, something extraordinary happened. A tire on one of the leading cars burst. The sound was deafening, like a gunshot echoing in the stadium. Its driver fought to regain control, spinning wildly off the track, leaving an opening for Jack and Kevin. "Now!" Kevin yelled. The urgency snapped Jack back into focus. Seizing the moment, he pushed the sedan to its limits, each part of him shining with resolve. They surged forward, clawing back toward the front, the ghosts of past failures fading into the dust behind them. But all that speed, all that momentum came with a price. Less than 100 yards from the finish, the car jolted, stuttering uncharacteristically. Jack's hands tightened on the wheel, feeling every bump, every rattle of their old wreck. "What is happening?" Kevin asked, panic cracking his voice. "Just hold on," Jack shouted back as he wrestled with the steering wheel, desperation creeping into every word. He could feel the power draining, their victory slipping away right in front of him. With an instinctive reflex, Jack slammed his palm onto the dashboard, willing the car to push just a little further, just a little faster. "Come on, baby," he urged, knowing it wasn't a machine. It was a promise, one they had made to themselves on this very day. The finish line loomed ahead, a white blur streaked with checkered flags. The sweat on his brow mixed with the grip of determination. And then Claire's warning from earlier echoed in the back of his mind, a reminder not to turn away from fear, but to embrace it, thrust into the open instead of hiding back. With one final roar, the engine surged. Jack could feel every cell in his body urging the car forward. They barreled toward the finish, side by side with the last competitor, everything hanging in the balance. Would the engine hold? Would they collide or win? As they raced neck and neck, a flicker of doubt crept in, shadowed by the belief that they were more than just competitors. They were underdogs fighting for their place in the sun. With heart racing and adrenaline pumping, every moment expanded into a lifetime. Jack sent a silent prayer, urging every ounce of strength toward that thin line ahead. Would they seize this fleeting opportunity, or was it all destined to slip through their fingers, much like life itself? As they crossed the line, anticipation crackled in the air. There was a heartbeat of silence before the crowd erupted, vibrating like a living thing. But as they celebrated, shadows moved in the corners of the track. Someone had seen, and they wouldn't let the moment go unchallenged. "Jack," Kevin shouted, pointing. Look! What awaited them was something Jack never expected, a revelation that would change everything they thought they knew about racing and each other. What could it possibly mean for their future? The cheers of the crowd echoed like thunder in Jack's ears, a sharp contrast to the tense moment that unfolded before them. As he turned to see what Kevin was frantically pointing at, uncertainty seeped in, replacing the victorious high they had just experienced. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. A tall figure stood at the edge of the track, framed against the bright lights of the stadium. It was none other than Marcus Reed, the former F1 champion, a legend in the racing community. His face was a mix of amusement and disbelief, and he seemed utterly captivated by Jack's old sedan. Did we just see what I think we saw? Kevin's voice wavered, half in awe and half in confusion. Jack squinted, trying to read the expression on Reed's face. There was something unsettling yet intriguing about the way the champion looked at them, like he was savoring the moment, as if he knew a secret they didn't. Had he just witnessed an underdog story that would become legendary? As Reed sauntered closer, the raucous cheers dimmed to an anxious murmur. It felt as if the entire stadium was holding its breath, waiting for the ex-champion to react, to say something that would shape this moment into something monumental. Jack, Kevin, Reed greeted, his voice carrying effortlessly in the charged air. That was incredible. You two took that rust bucket to its limit. He chuckled, the sound warm but with an underlying sharpness. What's your plan now? Go back to life in the slow lane? The question hung between them, teasing out the threads of reality they had tried to dodge. Jack felt a mix of pride and vulnerability. They had dared the impossible today, yet what came next felt less certain. We were just hoping to, Jack began, but Reed didn't let him finish. I want you both to join me for something big, he announced, a glint in his eye. I'm organizing a challenge, a true race, but with a twist. Kevin's eyes widened. What kind of twist? The kind where we take our best cars and pit them against something the world would least expect. A bunch of junk cars, Reed replied, his smile broadening. But hear me out. It'll be about creativity, innovation, and pure heart. You think you two have what it takes? Jack's heart raced for different reasons now, not just from the adrenaline of the race, but from the thrill of potential opportunity. Could this really be the break they were hoping for? But there was an edge of doubt lingering around him. Don't get me wrong, I love that you took a risk in a car like that, Reed continued, pointing to their sedan, but this isn't about glory, it's about the journey and what you stand for. It's about building something that stands out, breaking the norm. Are you in? The offer dangled tantalizingly before them, a lifeline of hope amidst a sea of uncertainty. Jack glanced at Kevin, whose eyes sparkled with excitement. For a moment, torn between dreams and reality, Jack felt the stakes rise once more. What do you say, partner? Kevin asked, enthusiasm bubbling through the concern. This could change everything. Jack hesitated. What if we fail? What if we don't measure up? But as the crowd murmured and the smell of burnt rubber still lingered in the air, Jack realized that failing was never the worst outcome. It was not trying, the hiding back from fear that would haunt them long after the engines silenced. Taking a deep breath, he stood tall, his spirit igniting with determination. The world around him faded into faint noise. Let us do it. The crowd erupted again, but in that moment Jack caught Reed's gaze. There was a challenge hidden within his smile, a possibility for everything Jack hoped to prove, a chance to turn their lives upside down once again. Before they could bask in the excitement, Reed leaned in closer, lowering his voice, but be warned, not everyone will welcome you. Are you ready to face the consequences? As the reality of the challenge washed over them, Jack realized this wasn't just about racing anymore. It was about standing firm amidst the storm, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. And with the echo of the crowd behind him, he felt the urge to take that leap into the open again. What awaited them was a new game, a race not just for speed, but for everything they believed in. Would they rise to the occasion, or would they find themselves buried under the weight of their own fears? The road lay ahead, vast and unpredictable, and now there was so much more at stake than just victory. Excitement hung thick in the air as the reality of their decision settled over Jack and Kevin. The stadium was alive with electric energy, the crowd's excitement radiating off them like heat from a blazing engine. But beneath that rush was a lingering anxiety, a whisper of doubt that clawed at Jack's mind. They stood together, Marcus Reed just a step away. A legendary figure who represented everything Jack had ever dreamed of. This was a man who had raced in the highest echelons, who had chased glory and come out with his name forever etched in the annals of motorsport history. What could two guys from the suburbs possibly bring to the table? Wait, so how do we even get started? Jack finally managed to ask, his voice a mixture of enthusiasm and hesitation. Reed's smile widened, and he gestured them to follow him as he turned toward the pit area behind the grandstands. There will be rules, of course. We'll need teams, sponsors, everything you can think of, he explained, his voice taking on a commanding tone. But the heart of this challenge is your ingenuity. You've got to pull together a race-ready junk car and show what you can do. Kevin's eyes gleamed with excitement. We can totally do that. We just need to find the right car, and then he trailed off, lost in thought. Then what? Jack pushed, looking at him. Then we make it unique. Something that people will remember. Kevin exclaimed, enthusiasm pouring out of him like gasoline on a fire. Jack felt the flicker of hope rekindling within him. In that moment, he imagined himself behind the wheel of a modified beater, making it fly. His heartbeat raced at the mere thought. But a quick glance back at Reed's serious expression turned those thoughts back to reality. What do you want from us, really? Jack asked, his voice steady but probing. Why this challenge? What's in it for you? Reed paused for a moment, his gaze settling somewhere far off. Because I want to see the spirit of racing come back. It's about pushing the boundaries. Remembering why we do this in the first place, not just for the trophy but for the thrill of the chase and the friendships we forge, he replied. The words resonated with Jack. It wasn't only about speed or glory. It was also about the drive to create something meaningful. All right then, Jack said, his resolve hardening. Let us do this. Let us show everyone what we've got. Before he could second-guess his enthusiasm, Reed slapped Jack on the back, a burst of laughter escaping him. That's the spirit. But remember, it won't be easy. You'll need a strong support system, an entire team. It's going to be a wild ride. Suddenly, the weight of their dream loomed before them. As thrilling as this challenge sounded, they were stepping into a world filled with fierce competitors and hardened veterans, not to mention the pressure to deliver. Who do we get to help us? Kevin asked, tapping his finger against his chin. We're just two guys. This is going to need some serious muscle. I know a few folks, Reed replied, casting a sly grin. But it's up to you to bring your vision to life. Gather your team and make it happen. You'll need builders, mechanics, and some creativity to flip that junk into something special. The wheels in Jack's mind began to turn, mapping out a plan as adrenaline filled his veins. Who could they tap into? There was their high school friend, Grant, who was a wizard with engines, and then there was Samantha, a mechanical prodigy with a reputation for making miracles happen on a shoestring budget. We know people who can help, Jack said, feeling the thrill of possibility. We can do this. We can really pull this off. Reed nodded appreciatively. But remember, keep your eyes open. As I said, not everyone will welcome your success. There are those who might want to throw a wrench in your plans. Just be ready. As they chatted, the crowd began to swell. The stadium buzzed with anticipation of what was to come, a backdrop that fueled Jack's dreams. He felt a powerful blend of excitement and fear coursing through him, feeling more alive than he had in ages. Jack exchanged a glance with Kevin, both of them grinning as if they had just struck gold. They were staring down the adventure of a lifetime, an uncharted road filled with boundless potential, laughter, and maybe a few tears. But there was one thing bothering him. What if we stumble? What if we fail? Will that be the end? Reed looked him dead in the eyes, unyielding. Failure isn't falling down, it's staying down. You birth greatness from struggle. And the journey is what will make you stronger. Jack shivered, every word igniting a fire inside him. This wasn't just about racing anymore. It was profound, touching upon something that felt deeply personal. Amidst the swirling buzz, he felt the thrill of possibility rise. We can do this, he whispered to himself more than anyone else. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the track, he realized something primal was awakening within him. What awaited them over the horizon? What unimaginable heights could they reach? Jack could only guess as the stakes rose higher, sending ripples of anticipation through his very core. Ready or not, this journey was only just beginning. The days blended into a whirlwind of activity as Jack and Kevin dove headfirst into the challenge. With their hearts set on building the ultimate junk car, the duo rallied a team that felt more like a family than anything else. They gathered Grant, whose hands seemed to dance over engines, and Samantha, whose brilliance with a wrench could make a heap of metal feel alive. With them came community friends, fellow dreamers who showed up with cans of soda, snacks, and laughter that echoed through the garage. Each evening felt transformative as they transformed not just the car but themselves. "Every dent tells a story," Jack would say, grinning as he rolled under the sun's rays while holding a body panel from a wreck. "And this story is ours." The junkyard was like a treasure trove, every rusted frame and cracked hood whispering promises of possibility. With every late-night meeting filled with grease-stained hands and shared dreams, they stirred each other's ambition and lifted each other's spirits. As they labored, Jack felt uncertainty sneak in again. What if they put in all this effort only to falter against polished machines and skilled racers? Each time, he'd glance at the old sedan, once a heap of rust, now slowly transforming, and then he'd remember Reed's words about friendship and the spirit of racing. The night before the race, the garage crackled with tension. They had spent the last few days fine-tuning every last bolt and painting their creation, a dazzling blue and yellow that shone under the flickering lights. Boundless anticipation filled the air. Jack climbed up onto the roof of the car, which encouraged cheers from his team. "Tomorrow we show them what true heart looks like," he shouted, feeling the rush of team spirit envelop him. Kevin's eyes were bright with excitement. "And no matter how we finish, we celebrate what we've built together." As Jack looked around at their faces, the spark ignited even brighter within him. This wasn't just about winning a race. It was about celebrating their journey, their bond. The morning dawned, and the sun rose like a drumroll announcing the new day. Jack stepped out into the buzzing energy of the crowd at the quarry. The atmosphere was electric, vibrant with anticipation. He took a moment to breathe it in. This wasn't just a race. It was the culmination of months of hard work, laughter, and new friendships forged along the way. "Are you ready?" Kevin's voice cut through the moment, filled with an eagerness that was contagious. "Yeah, let us do this," Jack replied, his heart racing as they approached the starting line. Reed was there, watching with a knowing smile, and as they took their positions, Jack could feel the eyes of the crowd boring into them. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. The countdown began, and Jack felt every heartbeat swell like an orchestra warming up. 3, 2, 1, go. The world erupted around them. Engines roared, dust flew, and the sound of cheers wrapped around Jack like a warm blanket. They surged forward, the sedan vibrating beneath him as they accelerated. "Hold on to your hats," Kevin laughed, urging Jack onward. They outpaced a few competitors and leaned into the curves with wild abandon. With every turn, every surge of speed, Jack relished the unity of their teamwork. It wasn't just about the car but the shared drive, the dream blooming like wildflowers along the sides of the rocky path. Yet just as the thrill began to felt triumphant, one of the rival cars appeared, coasting up alongside them. The driver shot them a taunting glare, a challenge in his eyes. Jack glanced at Kevin, who had already caught the same vibe. "Let us show them what we've got," Jack shouted, gripping the wheel. With a fierce courage kindling, they pushed harder. The sedan roared past in a stunning display, and the crowd erupted in cheers, even louder than before. But then it happened. The rival car desperately swerved into them, trying to take the lead. Jack instinctively hit the brakes, veering away from a collision. The sedan slid wildly on the gravel. "Steady! Don't overcorrect," Kevin shouted. Jack held on tight, barely regaining control. It was crashing. It was chaotic, and despite their best efforts, it felt like the world was closing in. Yet, they were not just battling for victory. They were fighting for every single person standing and cheering for them. "Come on, Jack," Kevin shouted, his voice rising above everything as they pressed on through the race. Jack locked onto the finish line. Feeling fire in his veins, this moment was theirs. They flew down the final stretch, and with the finish line within reach, Jack's mind turned to all they had built together. The laughter, the messiness, the chaotic moments turned to magic. As they crossed the finish line in a jubilant explosion of cheers, Jack and Kevin hooped, letting their hearts soar beyond words. They had pushed through chaos, through silence, through noise, and arrived at something profound. But as they slowed to a stop and began to take in the crowd, Something unexpected filled the air, an overwhelming surprise of applause and shouts. Jack stepped out of the car, feet hitting the ground like a reaffirmation of life. The noise was deafening, filling him with joy as they were met by a wave of support. Their friends, families, and even those who once doubted them were celebrating their spirit. Marcus Reed approached, clapping Jack on the back. "Well done, kid. You really showed them. You proved that it's not about the car but the drive behind it." Jack beamed and turned to Kevin, who was bouncing with excitement. "We did this together." Overwhelmed, he took a moment to soak it all in: the laughter, the pride in their creation, the hands that had cheered him on through every phase of this journey. As the sun set, a wave of warmth swept through his heart and embraced him like a familiar friend. They had more than just raced. They connected with their community, their passions swirling together like a symphony of hopes. And in that moment, standing in front of those who had believed in him, Jack knew this was just the beginning. The journey was theirs, and so was the road ahead. They would chase every thrill of creation, every bump in the race of life, and perhaps someday, they'd inspire others to take that leap with all their hearts just like they had. "Tomorrow we start our next project," Kevin exclaimed, eyes glinting with excitement. 1,000%. Jack grinned, feeling more alive than ever. And in that realization he found not just victory but home. If you loved their journey, it's the time to make your own. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second.